Hello and welcome. Today we're going to do an explanation video on installation procedure and functionality of the Tikt Performance brake ducts for the AMG GT series. Before we start the installation procedure, let's have a look at the stock setup, which is pretty common for most of the cars. So we have this carbon ceramic brake disc and this heat shield. I want to point out offset clearance between the heat shield and the rotor, which is about 5 millimeters. This will be an important thing later on in the video. Apart from that, we have the diffuser in the under tray, which is supposed to guide some fresh air towards the center of the wheelhouse and center of the wheel in order to feed the rotor. Installation procedure starts with brake caliper removal. Now we have of course loosened pretty much everything in order to make this video shorter. Once the caliper is removed, we move on to the brake rotor. And let's have a look on the rotor from the inside. For some of you who may not be familiar with the functioning principle of the ventilated disc, we'll try to explain. So we have these channels with vanes, which when the disc is rotated, generate the airflow which goes from the center of the rotor towards the outer edge of the rotor. So if we now look at this heat shield, we can imagine this surface being somewhere around the center here. And as you can see, the heat shield itself is pretty closed in that area. There are these small little gaps in between the heat shield and the upright, but we have seen in our testing and evaluation that is just not sufficient area for the intake of the rotor. What happens instead and what causes the problems in the AMG GT series is that offset we have mentioned in the beginning. So again, when we have the rotor in place, you have seen where the air is sucked in. The hot air is exhausted out here, and the wheel also prevents some of that airflow just going out. Instead, some of the air is being sucked back in between the heat shield and the rotor, again into the heart of the rotor. As in that moment we supply the hot air into the rotor, the efficiency of the cooling naturally drops. So moving on to the installation, we remove the heat shield. Now there have been questions if this part is modified or whatnot to install the Tikt duct. No, it's not. It's completely removed. Some aftermarket solutions and GTR Pro, for instance, has the brake heat shield being cut in order to allow more of the flow to the inlet of the rotor. But as I have previously explained, that itself is not sufficient because the air will flow through the path of the least resistance, and that is actually back into the wheel housing and again into the center of the rotor. So instead of ventilating the disc, it's being recirculated through it. So the Tikt duct, I'm pretty sure that all of you guys are already familiar with what it looks like. Now we're gonna have a look at what it looks like installed. So installation is pretty much plain simple. It's a direct replacement part which uses original 5 attachment points. And it completely replaces the heat shield. As you can see, we have the intake to the duct positioned right behind the air diffuser. Of course, it's moving together with the suspension, so when the car is on the ground, it will sit directly where it needs to be, in the height of the diffuser, which is an optimal place for fresh air intake. If you look at the duct itself on this side towards the rotor, you can see all of this being one big channel. Now I'm going to take the heat shield once again and put it into the picture so you can actually see how this is all actually duct or cooling channel, and this is all basically an obstacle. The next important thing is the clearance of the duct and the rotor. So let me just put this back on quickly. And I can also put the caliper back in the position. So now, if you take a look at the situation here, you can see we only have about 2 millimeters of the gap between the duct and the rotor, which effectively prevents any hot exhausted air from coming back towards the heart of the rotor. Instead, the fresh air is being sucked through the inlet, which is positioned, you can now see, right behind the air diffuser. Of course, as I said, when the car is on the ground, this thing will actually sit about here. So we have the fresh air intake, and we also have some forced induction, which actually improves the flow through the rotor. Now I can once again take the caliper off to show you some of the key design features. One of the main problems in the design of the duct itself was the shape of the upright, which isn't really optimal. It covers pretty much all of the inlet area of the rotor, so we had to work cleverly to make duct flow around the upright itself and feed that air from here around the upright into the heart of the rotor. That combined with the proper positioning of the intake and proper flow design makes this duct so effective. But I would say that the main secret behind the functionality of this system is the prevention of the recirculation around the rotor, which makes the system so effective. And for example, the GTR Pro, which has sort of air guides and deflectors, they don't close the rotor channeling, so that's why it just cannot work. I hope you like this video, and tomorrow we'll do one on the installation and functionality of the rear ones. Thanks for watching, bye!